Accompanying the 2020 budget proposal is a finance bill for your kind consideration and passage into law.
10.33 trillion naira appropriation bill presented to joint session of National Assembly. President Buhari insists no new project on priority list.
By 1st of October, any civil servant that is not on the IPPS payroll will not get their October salary.
Correspondence on sectoral analysis of budget of sustained growth and job creation.
Nigeria is the largest economy by GDP, but also in terms of the market.
Vice President Osinbajo at Nordic Africa Business Summit restates federal government's commitment to stabilizing the economy through investment in infrastructure. Plus 25th Nigeria Economic Summit ends. Information Minister categorical on role of creative industry in development. Good evening and welcome to the Network News on the NTA. I am Kenen Ima Abodike. Reading with me from Lagos is Dotun Ogunyemi. A 10.33 trillion naira budget of fiscal consolidation, investing, incentivizing and enhancing has been proposed for expenditure by the federal government for its services in the 2020 fiscal year. The budget is expected to, among others, accelerate the pace of the nation's economic recovery and diversification, massive job creation, and lifting many out of poverty. President Muhammadu Buhari, who presented the appropriation bill before the joint session of the National Assembly for consideration, reaffirmed his administration's commitment to the actualization of a bright and prosperous future for all Nigerians. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
That the 9th National Assembly and the executive arm of the Buhari presidency are now very much on the same page is not in doubt. As the president lays the 2020 appropriation bill for consideration, the ambience in the hallowed chambers clearly indicates unity of purpose as well as avowed commitment by all to accelerate the pace of socio-economic development and enhance the welfare of Nigerians, political differences notwithstanding. The 10.33 trillion naira budget proposal presented by the Nigerian leader is made up of 2.14 trillion naira capital expenditure, 4.88 trillion naira for recurrent debt service obligation of 2.45 trillion naira, 556.7 billion naira statutory transfers, as well as sinking fund of 296 billion naira.
The main emphasis will be completion of as many ongoing projects as possible, rather than commencing new ones. MDAs have not been allowed to admit new projects into their capital project for 2020, unless adequate provision has been made for the completion of all ongoing projects.
The budget is predicated on a conservative oil price benchmark of $57 per barrel, oil production of 2.18 million barrels per day, an exchange rate of 305 naira to a dollar, real GDP growth of 2.93%, while inflation is expected to remain slightly above single digits.
Accompanying the 2020 budget proposal is a finance bill for your kind consideration and passage into law. The draft finance bill proposes an increased VAT rate from 5 to 7.5%. The additional revenues will be used to fund health, education, and infrastructure programs. As the states and local governments are allocated 85% of all VAT revenues, we expect to see greater quality and efficiency in their spending.
As the government proposes, the 2020 budget is expected to be financed by 8.15 trillion naira oil, non-oil and other revenues, while the deficit of 2.18 trillion naira will be funded through new foreign and domestic borrowings.
Our government remains committed to ensuring the equitable sharing of economic prosperity. Our focus on inclusive growth and shared prosperity underscores our keen interest in catering for the poor and most vulnerable. Accordingly, we are revamping and improving the implementation of the National Social Investment Program through the newly created Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development.
With ministries of and housing, power and transportation getting the lion's share of capital allocation, the budget has, amongst other priorities, strengthening macroeconomic environment, enhancing critical infrastructure, accelerating the pace of socio-economic recovery, as well as achieving the objectives of massive job creation and poverty reduction.
We need to quickly review the fiscal terms for deep offshore oil fields to reflect the current realities and for more revenue to accrue to the government. We estimate that this effort can generate at least $500 million United States dollars additional revenue for the federal government in 2020 and over $1 billion from 2021. We remain committed to prudently planning for our future economic prosperity.
While commending the lawmakers for their renewed sense of cooperation, understanding and support with the executive arm in the task of taking Nigeria to the next level, the president also appreciated Nigerians for renewing his administration's mandate to continue with the Change Nigeria enterprise, which he promised will be delivered.
I thank you most sincerely for your patriotic resolve to collaborate with the executive in the short and long term.
More details on the 2020 budget will be provided by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, in the coming days. In Abuja, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The 9th National Assembly has restated its resolve to, in partnership with the executive, take Nigeria to the next level of development through the swift consideration and passage of the 2020 Appropriation Bill, which President Muhammadu Buhari laid before a joint session Tuesday. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, and Speaker House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila assured commitment of the Parliament to fast-track the process without compromising legislative mandate as provided in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I lay before this distinguished joint session of the National Assembly the 2020 budget proposals of the government of Nigeria.
The presentation of the 2020 Appropriation Bill by President Muhammadu Buhari before the joint session of the National Assembly in the second week of October is in line with the commitments of the Executive and Legislature of ensuring a return to the January to December budget cycle. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, describing this effort of President Buhari of laying the budget in good time as desirable, says the National Assembly has earmarked the month of October for budget defense to enable subsequent legislative work to be carried out in November and passage in December.
The National Assembly has shown capacity, commitment and willingness to treat legislative matters that will impact on the lives of our citizens with dispatch and every sense of urgency. This was clearly demonstrated last week when we received, processed and passed the request of Mr. President on the 2020-2022 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, FSP.
On budget implementation, the President of the Senate said the Public Procurement Act will be amended to ensure elimination of the encumbrances that lead to unnecessary delay, as this administration is set to achieve infrastructure development and improved socio-economic services for well-being of citizens. Speaker, House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila said the document laid is a statement of intent and a reflection of values of integrity, accountability, and absolute commitments to the best interests of Nigerians.
What are our priorities? Building an economy that provides sufficient opportunity for our people to achieve the dreams they hold dear. Equipping our children with an education that prepares them for the challenges and opportunities of a rapidly changing world. Protecting the rights of our citizens and securing them for internal and external aggression. This is our commitment, and we will ensure that this commitment is reflected in the 2020 Appropriation Act.
As guardians of the nation's purse, the legislature, he added, would work assiduously towards successful processing, passage, and implementation of the nation's financial blueprints for 2020. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Joining me in the studio to give perspective to the budget proposal to the National Assembly today is Professor Nazifi Abdullahi Darma, an economist at the University of Abuja. Welcome to the NTA.
Thank you very much and good evening, Nigerians.
10.33 trillion naira budget is the highest ever by Nigeria. What does that portend?
Well, it is a symbolism of the positive outlook that the government intends to pursue, particularly if you analyze it in the context of Mr. President's intention after his inauguration to leave, when he made a statement that he wanted to leave at least 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. I think the economy, as much as possible, need a reflective budget expenditure in order to consolidate on the gains that have been arising from the country's movement out of recession, and particularly the fact that we have a disproportionately high percentage of young people that are idle and jobless. So whatever spending we need to do that will reflect the economy, create as many jobs as possible, and move the significant proportion of our population out of poverty, I think it's a welcome development.
So what impact will having the budget on time have on the country's economy?
Well, I think it is important that we have synergy between the executive and the legislature in terms of trying to present the budget in reasonably good time. And I think it is also important that we have a predictable budget cycle that starts from January to December. But importantly, beyond having constancy and predictability in the budget cycle, three things are very important that the new synergy between the National Assembly and the legislature need to lead to. Number one is the need for us to return the country back to the culture of national development plan. The federal government doing everything correctly on its own control the hub of the economy. So we need every part of the economy to go back to national development planning culture as a way of consolidating and promoting sustainable development that is all-inclusive, but importantly creating millions and millions of jobs and moving citizens out of poverty. Secondly, is the need for us to have a realistic conversation between all types of government. The way we are costing capital projects, the disproportionately high cost of it, we need to think and do something differently. Finally, is the issue of debt financing. I have said it, one of the Buhari's ministers often abuses us recently, but we don't mind because we are not talking about him, we are talking about Mr. President that we have voted. A minister is just an appointee. We need to move away from debt-oriented infrastructural financing into a realistic and more affordable public-private partnership-oriented infrastructure financing that will go a long way in moving this country out of absolute poverty and providing the needed stimulus for the creation of millions and millions of jobs, particularly in housing sector delivery, where we have a deficit of around 15 to 20 billion housing unit deficit.
Professor Nazifi Abdullahi Darma, we thank you for coming on the news tonight.
Thank you very much, and may Allah bless Nigeria.
Meanwhile, the National Assembly has commended President Muhammadu Buhari for timely presentation of the 2020 appropriation bill, which is tailored towards addressing critical issues affecting the economy. The lawmaker stated this in an interview with National Assembly correspondent Vivian Idekpefu shortly after the budget presentation.
With the 2020 appropriation bill laid before the National Assembly, what is the level of commitment of federal lawmakers to make real the president's desire to return the country's fiscal calendar to the January to December budget cycle?
It gives room for proper planning. We are not going to disappoint them by allowing this to spill over to next year. No.
If any committee also fails to meet up with the target given to them, the framework, then the overall main committee on appropriation, which is the Senate and the House Joint Committee on Appropriation, will also automatically take over the responsibilities of the subcommittees.
All MDAs, no matter how crowded it is for them, must appear before all their committees in the month of October. And this is the directive of the leadership.
President Muhammadu Buhari scores high for placing premium on growth, job creation, investment in critical infrastructure, and SMEs.
Our population growth is 3%. So any growth that we achieve that is less than 3% will not be very impressionable. Therefore, this is a budget where we have tried to see if we can even match the population growth for a start.
You listen very well. He said all the projects that have been started this year will roll over. So the program of government will continue as it is today. With only a few additions were necessary, where you have sufficient budgetary provision and the cash flow to back it.
The budget is intended to drive growth. It's intended to expand the economy's capacity to create jobs.
This issue of poverty and then the issue of insurgency and what can come up. Therefore, we need to educate our people and find opportunities for them to work.
The infrastructural budget as presented is we seek to address the poverty in the land, and we look at what we can do in collaboration with the president.
And with commitment on the part of government, you can be sure that the next budget will definitely take Nigerians to the next level.
It's a budget that would touch the lives of Nigerians as Mr. President has promised.
President Buhari has at different fora expressed the desire to bequeath an effective and efficient fiscal system to the nation by returning to the January to December budget cycle. From the National Assembly, Vivian Idekpefu, NTA News.
Offshore and inland basin products sharing contract bill gets attention of the Senate. Details in a moment.
Now what is it? Emeka, drive the limousine. Bugatti, come inside now. Waiting close 200 naira recharge card for me.
200 naira. Just recharge 200 naira for 1 day, and you say fit follow win for the hundreds and hundreds of heavy prizes like a can of pepper, industrial sewing machine, grinding machine, and generator. Glow, my own done better.
My grinder will go win. Now here I go put up. Make that.
Hey, make una no go recharge you na Glow. I don't win generator, and here now myself. Oh,
the more you recharge, the more your chance the better.
Unlimited. It has happened though. The best is here. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NEC) has introduced the latest meter asset provider regulations (MAP). The meter asset provider will eliminate estimated billing in the country. This new deal means customers will have meters installed in their premises while they pay the service charge over a period of time. But when a customer decides to make full upfront payment for the meter asset, such customer will be exempted from the payment of metering service charge, and your meter will be installed within 10 working days. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NEC).
Hey you! And are you how they talk to? I sabi you now. It's in your mind, Abi. The person with them go help us. Baba Torosa, Shangalo, Ogalekuva, Mr. Sabi. And you know if we carry last for this one.
A spear into the top corner.
We sabi say pikin go crawl before in waka. So don't look, no help anybody. No dolly, no. So go for it. Go for football. Go for all Serie A and La Liga matches live. Go for GoTV Max.
Welcome to Adeleke University, a faith-based learning institution located in the serene and historic town of Ide, Osun State, Nigeria, running on the well-thought vision of its founding fathers to improve lives and society. The institution offers affordable and quality education. We are currently offering admission into our faculties of science, engineering, law, and art. We are also offering entry into the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences and the Faculty of Business and Social Science. Our College of Postgraduate Studies offers you the chance to earn your master's and doctorate's degree in over 30 disciplines. For more inquiries, please visit www.adelikeuniversity.edu.ng. You can also call 0806-820-2021. Adeleke University. Education, excellence, character.
Let's come together as we celebrate the uniqueness of our cultural diversity, showcase our creativity and ingenuity. It's the National Festival for Arts and Culture, NAFEST 2019, in the ancient city of Benin, Edo State, the heartbeat of the nation. Theme, our reality, our pride. Holding 19th through 26th October 2019. Highlights will include drama, children poetry performance, essay writing competition, crafts competition, indigenous cuisine, traditional wrestling, indigenous fabrics in royal apparel, cultural quiz competition, board games, and lots more. Oh yes, it's the National Festival of Arts and Culture, NAFEST 2019, Edo State, Nigeria, holding 19th to 26th October 2019. We are celebrating our heritage. Otumba Olusegun Runshewe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture, announcer.
Succeeded to pool a galaxy of stars from the north, south, east to the west, and central Africa, and also those that are domiciled beyond the shores of Africa under one roof.
Welcome back. We are not yet done with the budget, as the non-oil sector will play a key role in attaining the enhanced real GDP growth of 2.93% in 2020. Leah Katung Babatunde in this report takes a look at the financial steps to be taken in the appropriation bill as presented by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Accelerated economic diversification and an improvement in the enabling business environment gives hope to government that it can achieve its set targets, though inflation is expected to remain slightly above single digits in 2020. Accompanying the 2020 budget proposal is a finance bill by President Muhammadu Buhari with 5 strategic objectives: promoting fiscal equity by mitigating instances of regressive taxation, reforming domestic tax laws to align with global best practices, introducing tax incentives for investments in infrastructure and capital markets, supporting micro, small and medium-sized businesses in line with the ease of doing business reforms, and raising revenues for government.
By 1st of October, any civil servant that is not on the IPPS payroll will not get their October salary. So we have a directive to implement that, and we will. We know that there are some groups of civil servants that are still dragging their feet over it, but we have been given enough time.
The draft finance bill also proposes a 50% increase of the VAT rate. There is an increase of 620.28 billion naira over 2019 recurrent expenditure. The President said fiscal reforms in 2020 shall introduce new performance management frameworks to regulate the cost-to-revenue ratios for government-owned enterprises, which shall come under significant scrutiny. At 24% of aggregate projected expenditure, the 2020 provision falls significantly short of the 30% target in the ERGP. The main emphasis will be the completion of as many ongoing projects as possible, rather than commencing new ones. In Abuja, Leah Katung Babatunde, NTA News.
Expectedly, the petroleum sector is to generate 2.6 trillion naira to fund the 2020 budget. Mia Ogide in our next report reviews the contributions from this sector in the 2019 budget so far and the task ahead in 2020.
It is the mainstay of the economy, a title that comes with a lot of financial responsibility. For instance, in the 2019 8.83 trillion naira budget, 3.737 trillion naira was expected from oil revenue. Assessing the 2019 budget performance, President Muhammadu Buhari gives the oil sector a pat on the back despite some visible shortcomings. With crude oil benchmark of $60 per barrel and daily production of 2.3 million barrels, targets in the sector as of June 2019 fell short of 49% due to daily production of 1.8 million barrels as against the 2.3 million barrels projected. But on the sunny side, Bonny Light crude oil, estimated at $60 per barrel, was sold at $67 per barrel, and this boosted the external reserves from $23 billion in October 2016 to $42 billion in August 2019.
Additionally, revenue projections from restructuring of joint venture oil and gas assets and enactment of new fiscal terms for production sharing contract do not materialize, as enabling legislation for these reforms is yet to be passed into law.
Specific targets and expectations from the sector in the 10.33 trillion naira 2020 budget estimates set. Revenue from crude oil estimated at 2.6 trillion naira, daily crude oil production 2.18 barrels, and a price tag of $57 per barrel at an exchange rate of $305 to the naira. From the 2019 experience, President Muhammadu Buhari is optimistic that the oil sector will live up to its expectation with sustained stability in oil-producing areas. Mia Ogidi, NTA News.
83 billion naira has been allocated to agriculture in the 2020 budget against the 1.3 billion in 2019. Musa Baba Aliyu takes a look at the implication of this to the agriculture sector of the economy.
Agriculture is among the key sectors that has been given attention in the national budget since 2016. This is based on the policy of the federal government aimed at diversifying the economy. Chika Ife of Feed Agriculture has been monitoring budgetary allocation to agriculture since 1999.
President Muhammadu Buhari's administration from the onset in 2015 had made efforts. There had been an increase in 2016 budget from what we got in 2015 to about 73 billion, which, I mean, was a far increment from what we've got about 50-something billion, which was the 2015 budget. And then, of course, in 2017 budget, you had that budget being increased far over 30% to about 100 billion. And then again, in 2018 budget, we had about 118 billion, which was allocated to the budget.
The 2020 budget is, however, lower than that of 2019. Sectors such as water resources, environment, as well as social investment program are to support agriculture.
You have the Anchor Borrowers Program, you have the NIRSAL, Nigeria Incentive Risk-Based Lending for Agriculture, so you see I have a lot of activities around the agricultural sector. But this particular 83.8 billion is for the capital leg, of agriculture.
The proposed VAT increase captured in the 2020 budget exempts agricultural commodities such as cereals, tubers, meat and fish.
The VAT Act already exempts pharmaceuticals, educational items, and basic commodities, which exemptions we are expanding under the Finance Bill 2019.
Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
In the meantime, the All Progressives Congress APC has commended the executive and the legislature for their commitments towards ensuring that budget passage is returned to the January to December cycle. This is sequel to the presentation of the 2020 appropriation bill to a joint session of the National Assembly on Tuesday by President Muhammadu Buhari. In a statement by the APC National Publicity Secretary Lanre Issa Onilu, the APC says early presentation of the proposed budget of a record 10.33 trillion naira, which surpasses the 8.916 trillion naira budgeted for 2019, would consolidate on the gains the current administration has made in revamping infrastructure, economic diversification and retooling of the economy. The party expresses confidence that leaders and members of the 9th National Assembly would ensure a cordial relationship with the executive arm towards ensuring proper implementation of the administration's next level agenda for Nigerians. Away from the budget, the Nigerian government is lowering the bar to accommodate both local and foreign investors and create a much better business environment. Already, Nigeria is rated among the top 20 developing economies in the United Nations Ease of Doing Business Environment ranking. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at a plenary session at the 9th Nordic Africa Business Summit in Oslo, Norway, says the federal government is committed to stabilizing the country's economy and viable foreign investments.
The incredible opportunities today for business and trade, and especially with the coming into effect of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Many of us, of course, are familiar with all of what it took to get us there. We all also recognize that Nigeria is the largest economy by GDP, but also in terms of the market. There is a huge market there, and the prospects for us and our Nordic friends, who of course over the years have proved to be some of our best partners, are clearly immense. So I think we must, begin the sorts of conversations that can, be beneficial to both sides.
Now, 1 week after the Senate resolved to review the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Product Sharing Contract Act, it has begun the consideration of the bill that seeks to amend the act. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Onkwo reports that the bill has been passed for second reading.
Last week, the Senate, through a motion, observed that Nigeria has lost billions of dollars from the non-review of the Production Sharing Contract Act. One of the resolutions was to amend the Act for upwards review of the royalties. That bill, sponsored by Senator Basi Akpan, has been passed for second reading.
The PSC Act will be reviewed to ensure that the share of federal government of Nigeria in the additional revenue is adjusted to the extent that the PSC shall be economically beneficial
to the federal government of Nigeria.
Can't go to court because the law is very, very clear. It is that $20 or 15 years from 1993. They signed up to that contract.
We're going to talk about the percentages. We're going to talk about penalty clause.
If this bill scales through, we'll not be looking for money to fund our budget. A lot of money there.
We need to make the suggested penalties a little bit stiffer so that it is not attractive for people to commit those things that we feel they must not.
Senator Degi Bio-Barakuma drew the attention of the Senate on the need to commence the Oil and Gas Research Center and Museum, Oloibiri, in Bayelsa State. The motion also commended the federal government for the initiative.
Of the importance of the first oil field and the need to develop the great foreign exchange earnings, tourism potentials of the area and the nation, as well as improve the standard of living of the inhabitants of the communities.
Urge the federal government to direct PTDF and the concerned contractors to mobilize to site, commence the immediate construction of the Oil and Gas Research Center and Museum at Oloibiri. 10
bills were passed for first reading from the National Assembly. Ignatius Nkwo, NTN News.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has restated the federal government's determination to provide the necessary incentives that will make the creative industry a key player in the national development growth. The minister stated this on the sidelines of the ongoing 25th Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja. Anthony Folsom reports.
It was a collection of familiar faces in the industry, tagged Creative Industry Breakfast Meeting. It is designed to discuss a wide range of issues that border on opportunities and constraints in the music, film, and fashion industry. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed, who chaired the session, is of the opinion that practitioners must make demands and ask for an enabling environment to excel, given their enormous potentials to contribute to national growth and development.
Government wants something organic. They want to be part of resolving the problems. And therefore, there is a need for this private-public dialogue. This will lead to policy formulation. From there, it will lead to legislation, and then all the parties will be quite glad. And I think we are going to work with the NESG and all the other stakeholders, because the thing about the creative industry is that there are too many people involved. We talked about digital platform today, that's Ministry of Communication. We talked about intellectual property, that's Ministry of Justice. We spoke today about financing, that would include CBN and the Bankers Committee. We talked about culture, that would be Ministry of Professional and Culture. There will be so many different sectors, but we all need to work together to move that industry forward.
With Nigeria's economic prosperity depending on strategically identified sectors with competitive advantage, a solid foundation, its growth lies within the policy framework put in place. In Abuja, Anthony Folsom, NTN News.
The federal government says it will partner with global accounting bodies to improve probity in the management of public finance and expansion of the nation's revenue base. Permanent Secretary, General Services Office and the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Olusegun Adekunle, made this known while receiving a delegation of the UK-based Association of Chartered Certified Accountants on behalf of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. Betaire Yiben tells us more.
Following the full implementation of the Treasury Single Account by ministries, departments and agencies of government under the Buhari administration, financial experts agree that the policy has helped to reduce financial leakages and track public finance. However, the federal government believes that ensuring probity in public financial management is a continuous process, as it will welcome accounting innovations and transfer of skills that will insulate the budgeting process as well as the economy at large against all forms of financial impropriety.
There's more transparency in government financial management system than it was about 10 years ago. we'll share with you, and we'll see areas that your body can intervene in the development of our systems in Nigeria.
The Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, a global accountancy body with over 2,000 members in Nigeria and tentacles in about 71 countries, commended the federal government's progress in plugging loopholes in public finance and expressed readiness to partner with government in driving key financial reforms.
What we're looking at is ways that you can change finance systems to get better results, more efficient and effective use of taxpayers' money. In Nigeria, the drive for public service reform would welcome such change as well.
The Bureau of Public Service Reforms will liaise with the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants to enhance global best practice in public financial management in the country. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Let's now join Dotun in Lagos for stories from that zone. Hello, Dotun.
Thank you, Kenna, and welcome to Lagos. In continuation of its determination to rid the nation's maritime domain of all criminal elements, personnel of the Western Naval Command of the Nigerian Navy embarked on its second biannual sea exercise codenamed Ategun Alafia. Adeola Omokive reports that the exercise is one of the strategies of the command to equip its personnel to boost economic prosperity of the nation.
Criminal activities within the Nigerian maritime domain has over the years created tension amongst shippers and other key players who conduct legitimate businesses within the nation's coastal lines. This has made the Nigerian Navy to be a step ahead of the sea criminals. Western Naval Command area of responsibility, which covers the sea and coastal areas from the Nigeria-Benin border to the limit of the nation's exclusive economic zone, during the second biennial sea exercise patrolled operating bases at Igbokoda and Badagry with 5 capital ships and 11 boats. The exercise saw the officers simulating different situations like encountering vessels engaged in illegal activities, firing at targets, vertical replenishment and medical evacuation in critical circumstance, as well as man and chair from assigned forces for the principal ship.
Ships are in classes. If you have logistic ships and you want to escort them, there are formations you take in such a way that if there are attacks, the one that you call them pickets will be ahead to ward off. They are part of the naval traditions.
Flag Officer Commanding Rear Admiral Oladele Daji says the exercise has largely achieved its desired aims and objectives.
Generally, give confidence to seafarer within the Western Naval Command area of operation, area of responsibility, to let them know that the seas are safe and secure for them to carry out their legitimate activities.
For the Nigerian Navy, the operational readiness of her officers and men is paramount, hence the exercise Ategun Alafia, which literally means calm wind. In Lagos, Adeola Omokive, NTA News.
The 9th edition of the United Bank for Africa UBA Foundation National Essay Competition for secondary schools has commenced with a call for entries from students across Nigeria. The education initiative of UBA is aimed at promoting reading culture and encouraging healthy and intellectual competition among youths in Nigeria and across Africa. Joy Ken Abakweya reports.
The National Essay Competition of the UBA Foundation is the bank's drive to improve the quality of education across Africa. It is also a key investment drive in human capital development, which the bank is committed to providing. The competition is expected to engage the minds of participants to express themselves through creative writing.
We cannot throw up our hands and keep saying the standard of education is falling and do nothing about it. But as the great giant that UBA is, it's come out to say that, look, we want to do or contribute our own small quota into elevating the standard of education.
Us talking about this topic and bringing our own point of view can actually help government and see that it can stop fraud and corruption.
Chief Executive Officer, UBA Foundation, Bola Atta, said this year's edition will also reward schools with the highest entries.
So the grant is for universities within Africa on the continent. You cannot take the grant and take it outside of Africa because we're also trying to grow the continent. So it's a multifaceted way to improve lives.
It's meant to encourage students to research and find out more about this world, about the way the world operates, about structure, how to go about structuring an essay to ensure you're able to present an argument.
Entry will close in November 4, 2019, while topic for the competition is focused on the fight against corruption in Nigeria. Prizes range from 1 to 2 million naira, and the 12 finalists will go home with a personal computer each. In Lagos, Joy Ken Abakboya, NTN News.
And that's our contribution from Lagos. Network News continues after this time out. Please stay tuned.
Now what is it? Emeka, drive the limousine Bugatti, come inside now. Waiting below 200 naira recharge card for me.
200 naira. Just recharge 200 naira for 1 day, and you say fit follow win for the hundreds and hundreds of heavy prizes like Keke na Pepe, industrial sewing machine, grinding machine, and generator. Glow, my own done better.
My grinder will go win. Now here I go put up. Make
I no go recharge you now, Glow. I don't win generator. And here, now myself. Oh,
the more you recharge, the more your chance, the better.
Glow Unlimited. Here is a very tough guy who knocks out every opponent. But now he's been knocked down by malaria.
Amatem Soft Gel.
Amatem Soft Gel makes treating malaria easy. Amatem Soft Gel is a game changer.
Soft Gel, I good to come on malaria for body.
Available for adults and children. Say no to malaria. Yes to life.
Hey, you! And are you how they talk to? I sabi you now. It's in your mind, Abi. The person with them go help us. Baba Toros and Shangalo. Ogalekuva, Mr. Sabi. And you know if we carry last for this one.
A spear into the top corner.
We sabi say Peking go crawl before in waka. So don't look, no help anybody. No dolly, no. So go for it. Go for football. Go for Osirio and La Liga Martins live. Go for GoTV Max.
What we are really cultivating here is a better future for all Nigerian women, and it's not always easy. Panadol Extra relieves headache, backache, joint pain, toothache, and menstrual pain. The pain is worth it.
NTA Abeokuta is 40. Come, let's celebrate 40 years of impressive TV broadcasting at the grassroots. On Thursday, 17th October 2019, there'll be a lecture titled Lens and Sound, Television, a tool for social reorientation and good governance. Guest lecturer, Professor Oluyemisi Oluremi Obiladi, Professor of Education and Women's Studies, Obafemi Awolowo University. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Prince Dapo Abiodun, Governor of Ogun State. Royal Father of the Day, His Royal Majesty Oba Adedotun Aremu Gbadebo, the Alake and Paramount Ruler of Egbaland. Chairman of the occasion, Chief Olatunde Anyela Abudu, Mayegun of Egbaland. Chief Host, Malam Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, Director General, NTA. Other activities lined up for the occasion include an array of awards to distinguished entities held to walk on Saturday, 12th October 2019, while Innovative Match comes up on Tuesday, 15th October 2019 at MKO Abiola Stadium. Come, celebrate 40 years of impressive television at the grassroots with us and take NCA Abeokuta to the next level.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news
news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Welcome back. Following the alleged killing of 3 police personnel and 2 civilians by troops of the Nigerian Army, the Defense Headquarters was directed by the Presidency to set up a board of inquiry to investigate the incident. A statement by the Acting Director of Defense Information, Colonel Onyema Nwachukwu, indicates that the board has submitted its report and observed that there was poor communication between the personnel of the Nigerian police and the soldiers. It also notes non-adherence to the standard operating procedures by both parties involved in the incident. The report recommends that the Army and Police Force should further investigate Captain Tijani Balarabe, Sergeant Ibrahim Mohammed, Corporal Bartholomew Obanye, DCO Ibi Police Station, Assistant Superintendent of Police Awondo Na Yobe, and Inspector Aliyu Darje for complacency and necessary disciplinary measures. Similarly, further inquiries be conducted on Hamisu Bala for gun running and possibly kidnapping in order to prosecute the suspects. Without adequate security, there cannot be tax revenue. This explains the synergy between the Nigerian Police Force and the Federal Inland Revenue Service for building a viable society. Francis Form reports that as part of collaborative efforts of the 2 agencies of government to aid effective service delivery, both parties, or rather both, and that the chairman of FIRST, Tunde Fowler, presented 2 carrier trucks to the police force.
Please accept this little token of 2 trucks.
The FIRS boss believes the trucks will aid the police force in carrying out its statutory responsibilities and urge other Nigerians to do same.
When you're talking about tax payment, especially in Nigeria, where a lot of people don't want to pay taxes, sometimes for security of both the tax collector and the taxpayer, we require the assistance of the police force. So this is just a little token to support the police in carrying out their responsibilities.
The Inspector General of Police, who received the trucks on behalf of the force, affirmed that the security situation in the country is one that needs support from agencies like the Federal Inland Revenue Service and well-meaning Nigerians.
Security is everybody's business. Government should not be left alone to deal with security. Agencies, philanthropists, organizations should come along and support the police and other security agencies.
The trucks, the IG affirms, will serve as a booster in the fight against crime and criminality in the country. In Abuja, Francis Form, NTA News.
Nigeria and Namibia are poised to strengthen their bilateral, regional and multilateral relations. The commitment came at a meeting between Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyama and the Namibian Minister of International Relations and Cooperation Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah to discuss issues of mutual interest and concern to the 2 countries. Delegation from the 2 countries met to iron out their differences and misunderstandings which had negatively affected their relations. One burning issue is that some Nigerians were detained in Namibia and deported back home after being denied entry permit.
There has been free movement, maybe free in the sense that both nationalities are getting their visas with no problem as the one we have now solved.
That's what we have managed now to address completely.
If all requirements are met, visas will be issued immediately to nationals upon arrival in Namibia or Nigeria. The 2 countries also clarified the issue of flights offered by the national airlines today Lagos and reiterated that the route is not closed but only suspended due to economic reasons.
To determine that for the time being it was obviously no longer profitable, but certainly the route and the license is there given to Air Namibia to operate that route and is still subsisting.
The latest sports stories are still ahead. Do stay with us.
Harnessing Nigeria's gas for sustainable wealth creation instead of flaring is the focus this week on NTA Tuesday Live. The program Tuesday Live every Tuesday is educative and incisive. Don't miss it.
Sports update is next. Further reactions trailed the inability of Nigeria's Super Falcons to progress in CAF qualification series for Tokyo 2020 Olympics women's football event after a 1-1 aggregate draw with Cote d'Ivoire in the second leg third round decided at the Agege Township Stadium in Lagos Monday.
They should be able to go down and sit and think and ask themselves why this thing is happening like this. In fact, it's disappointing to see a country like Ivory Coast will now stop us from going to Tokyo 2020 Olympics. It's unheard of.
Meanwhile, Youth and Sports Development Minister Sadadare says there will be an investigation to unravel the root cause of Super Falcons' non-qualification for the Olympics after their last appearance in Beijing 2008.
Not just from the handlers, but also from the federation. Also from the players, we must get a feedback so that we can start rebuilding not just the team alone, but also the coaching crew.
After a below-par performance at the 2019 IAAF World Championships in Doha, where long jumper Esa Brume won Nigeria's solitary bronze medal, the Nigeria Olympic Committee at a meeting on Tuesday in Abuja rose with a resolution to tackle indiscipline among athletes.
This issue of indiscipline, this issue of performance, we are going to look at it critically and we're going to come out with a resolution which will be announced to the whole public.
Team Nigeria placed 31st on the medal table among the 214 nations which participated in the biennial championships. President Muhammadu Buhari sends condolences to families of the 38 victims of a boat mishap in Kerifi local government, Bauchi State, describing the incident as a devastating tragedy not only for families of victims but also for the country. A statement by the Presidential Assistant on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says President Buhari also commiserates with the government and people of Bauchi State, urging steadfastness in prayer for the souls of the departed and their families. Mrs. Christiana Aduke Dada, an accomplished technocrat in the Nigerian insurance sector, has passed on at the age of 84. Christiana was an indigenous of Ebara Oke in Ondo State. The sad incident occurred on the 31st of August 2019. Christiana Aduke Dada is survived by her siblings, children, amongst whom is Fumilayo Coker, and several grandchildren. That's our bulletin tonight. Thanks indeed for watching. My name is Kenan Ima Abodike. Good night.